Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
All right, I am... I'm kind of embarrassed to be doing this next review. I have a little bit of a problem.
Do you?
I keep buying cameras. In particular, I keep buying Sony cameras. As you know, I am an avid camera buff, a hobbyist. And for years, I carried around a big DSLR, my favorite, the Canon 5D.
Yeah.
Heavy, but I had a lot of lenses, and I could get great shots with it, primarily because it had a full-frame sensor. So I was really interested when we started to see first smaller cameras that were mirrorless in design. They didn't have a big prism to move out of the way so they could be more compact. And eventually, Sony came out with a full-frame mirrorless camera, the A7. They followed quickly on with the A7R, which was 36 megapixels, full frame, and really an amazing camera with a couple of little quirks that I just had to downgrade it for. But I liked it enough to keep buying them. Then I bought this. This is the A7S, 12 megapixels, silent mode, a really great street shooter because it's so compact. This is with the 35 millimeter Sony lens. It's so compact, and yet because it's full frame, you're getting great images. Also with 12 megapixels, and I did review this as well as the A7R earlier. With 12 megapixels, you're getting great low light performance. Well, Sony just came out, and literally it started to arrive in people's stockings in the last few days with this. This is the Mark II version of the A7, A7 II. And Sony has listened to what enthusiasts have said about the A7, and they've responded with an improved camera, a more graceful and more elegant camera in a lot of respects. And you can see immediately, we don't have an over-the-shoulder. Where's our closest shot? There it is? Okay. So you'll see immediately if I compare, this is the layout on the A7S, the most recent one. That silver button is the button to take a picture. On the new one, they've increased the size of the grip a little bit, and that's because it's got something inside that is really exciting. And they've moved the shoot button. Here, I'll turn it around so you can see. That's a little bit better shot. They've moved the shoot button to the front where it's much easier, especially with this improved grip, to grasp. It's little ergonomic things like that that can make a big difference in how much you like a camera. But what's really interesting about this, it's a 24 megapixel full frame shooter. What's really interesting about this A7 Mark II is they've put optical image stabilization into the body. And it's not just two-way or four-way, it's five-way optical image stabilization. There's the full frame sensor. You can see it right there. So this camera, with the body alone, will compensate for shutter or movement in the pitch and the yaw, as well as the X and the Y axis. So it handles 5 different kinds of kind of handshake. And what that means is you can shoot at lower shutter speeds in darker situations and get better shots. And I have to say, having had this only for about 24 hours, it's absolutely true. I've been able to get some amazing shots. I put them up on SmugMug, Brian, so you can see. These are fairly low-light situations. This is using the 55 millimeter f1.8 Sony lens, which I quite like. It's a really nice lens. And even though we were in handheld situations, this is my darkened office. Never would I see any motion blur, any shaking visible. It really handles it quite well. And that's pretty impressive. This is the first mirrorless, in fact, I think one of the first cameras ever to have 5-way image stabilization built into the body. Now, some of the Sony lenses have their own optical image stabilization in the pitch and the yaw, and if they do, they'll turn that off in the body, but it'll still work, which is great. I mean, this camera is really rock solid, particularly useful for, by the way, that's a very low light picture. I'm hand holding that. I'm not sure what the shutter speed was, but it's very slow. And you can see the detail, and the light is fabulous. That's the back of my
I love the shallow depth of field of that lens.
Yeah, this lens is great.
Usually in low light photography, you don't really get this kind of sharp.
Well, it's wide open, and of course the ISO goes up pretty high, but it's not grainy. If you zoom in on these, and you can see them at my SmugMug page, leolaporte.smugmug.com. The images are even at higher ISOs really look fantastic. Sony has some nice features built into this, including a 50 megabit video codec. You'll have to have very, very fast SD cards to take advantage of that. In fact, mine, the Class 10 cards I use, were not fast enough. So I've had to buy 2 new, somewhat more expensive SD cards for this camera so that I can shoot this super high quality video. It also supports S-Log 2, which means we get high dynamic range video. This is going to be a great video camera as well as a still camera, and it is very compact. They have made some wonderful improvements. For one thing, one thing I like about all of the Sony A7s is the customizable buttons. They've moved these to make them more accessible. On the top, we've got C1 and C2. C3 is here on the back, and C4 is overloaded. It's the trash icon, but it's also there. So I've got 4 customizable buttons, which I use all the time. One of the things that really is great about all these A7 cameras is the manual focal capability. You can use an automatic focus, which I do. And by the way, Sony says, and I'd agree, that this focus is about 40% faster than the previous A7 camera. And then you can fine-tune it by just twisting the ring here. And I use one of these buttons to zoom in, and it really does a great job. Another thing that they've significantly improved is startup time. And we'll just show you here. I'm going to flip it on right now, and it gets ready and is ready to shoot. You see, literally within a couple of seconds.
Wow.
That's a significant improvement also over previous A7 models. $1,700 body only. The real negative continues to be that there aren't very many dedicated lenses for this camera. The Sony E-mount, there are special FE lenses. They're full-frame E-mount lenses for this camera. And really, there's only 3 or 4 lenses out there. More to come. The roadmap is quite extensive. But the good news on these cameras, and a lot of camera buffs, including my friend Trey Ratcliffe, have noted this, is it's easy to get an adapter for almost any kind of lens on here. A lot of people are using Leica lenses on these Sony bodies and getting amazing results. Having the optical image stabilization in the body means that even if you're using a manual focus lens from Leica or Nikon or Canon, you'll still get the OIS from the body, and that is a significant improvement. So $1,700, that's the same price as the original A7 was, same number of megapixels as well, but considerably improved. They've dropped the price of the A7 by several $100s. So I still would recommend the A7. The A7R is the priciest of the bunch, and at 36 megapixels, it's also the most sophisticated, but it's slow focus. It's slow to operate. It's a little finicky. I have to say, of all of them, I'm a big fan of the A7S for its 12 megapixel super low light shooting, and I'm very excited about this, the new A7 Mark II. Sony is showing that they are very committed to this line, and they're going to continue to make this, in my opinion, the best full-frame camera out there. Just a remarkable buy in a very compact body. So a definite buy on the Sony A7 Mark II. If you haven't purchased an A7 yet, this is something to look at. They've just done a stellar job. This camera feels good. It's a little heavier. It's about, I don't know, I think 10 ounces heavier than its predecessor. But that just makes it feel more solid. It's by no means heavy when you compare it to a Nikon or a Canon.
Looks cool,
DSLR.
too.
Yeah, doesn't it look good?
Yeah.
The thing is, you can carry this around and not be intrusive, especially if you put the 35mm Sony lens on there. They just don't, they look like, tourist cameras. They don't look like professional cameras. But all you have to do is go to Trey Ratcliffe's Stuck in Customs website and take a look at the amazing pictures, high dynamic range pictures he's shooting with his Sony A7s. And I think you'll see these are absolutely professional grade cameras.